Hi, and welcome to History's a Blast. We're in Franklin County, Pennsylvania, my birthplace. And behind me is a monument to the birthplace of President James Buchanan, Pennsylvania's one and only contribution to the White House. We're going to see this place and some other interesting little side stops in southern Franklin County. So come along for the ride. The monument sits in 18.5 acres of Buchanan Birthplace State Park, endowed by a $100,000 bequeath from his niece, Harriet Lane, who was orphaned at a young age and was his niece. She was adopted by him in 1842, and she basically became his housekeeper in the White House because Buchanan himself was a bachelor. His fiancée had died when he was a young man, and he never married. It's a lovely little spot, and there's a little historical trail with various storyboards talking about his life and the life of his niece, Harriet Lane. Buchanan was the 15th president of the United States, and some historians, most historians, agree that he was among the worst presidents in the history of the United States because he did not do a whole lot to prevent the schism and the loss of the South through secession following the election of Abraham Lincoln in 1860. But this park and its storyboards emphasize a key feature of Buchanan's political philosophy, and he was a lifelong politician, entering politics at the age of 23. And that was he had no master except for the law. He was a true conservative when it came to the role of the president. In other words, he saw the role of the presidency as caretaker rather than as an activist. And of course, that's been a tension in presidential politics since the late 19th century. The name of the Buchanan home was Stony Batter. It was a trading post on the then frontier. He was born in 1791, at which time this area was still very much the frontier, although the Ohio Valley was on the verge of being settled. And here's a map of the roads leading through the area. There's Mercersburg south of Fort Loudon, which we've visited several times before. The park also has toilets and a small picnic area, picnic tables with pedestal-mounted grills. And there's a nice little group pavilion over there on the other side of the park road. Nice little spot. So we'll move on from here to some other out-of-the-way historical markers. We're also tracking the South Penn branch of the Cumberland Valley Railroad, part of the Pennsylvania Railroad system. So let's move on. We're on our way to an historical marker to Crossroads hamlet of Marks, but since we're passing through Mercersburg, we'll pause here at the former passenger station. Service ended to the passenger station in 1931, and after the mid-1960s, only a railroad tie creosoting facility nearby kept the tracks from being torn up until that business closed in the mid-1980s. It's good to see it usefully occupied and well-maintained, but restaurants and old wooden train stations make me nervous. This is the site of McDowell's Fort, the Crossroads village of Marks in southwestern Franklin County, Pennsylvania. John McDowell's mill was stockaded in 1755 and was used by the provincial authorities until Fort Loudon was built a year later. The Pennsylvania Historical and Museum Commission has put two markers here at two different dates. The bronze plaque embedded in the stone, 1916, and of course the standard PHMC marker in the early 2000s, I believe. This was also the epicenter of troubles between local settlers and British authorities in 1765, the famous Black Boys Rebellion that was supposed to have been, or is considered to be, a precursor to the American Revolution. This is one of the first, if not the first, examples or episodes of armed resistance to British authority. This is Les Masters, on the South Penn branch, Cumberland Valley Railroad. Railroad ran right through between the buildings, crossed over this road, and there goes the grade into the trees and behind the parked vehicles. We're in the village of Williamson on the South Penn branch of the Pennsylvania Railroad, the Cumberland Valley Railroad. This is the old road bridge leading from Greencastle into Williamson in an intersection with the Highway 995 between Chambersburg and Mercersburg. There's the road bridge, beautiful old truss with wrought iron rods, and next to it, through the trees, you can see the bigger truss bridge that carried the railroad over. I believe this is Back Creek. See the trusses through there. And there was a grist mill complex, there still is, on the other side of the creek, and a freight station. Railroad ran to the left. And over my shoulder is the direction it came over the bridge, back at the truss bridge, past the mill. The mill's behind that new house there. There's the old highway bridge and the larger railroad truss behind it. And here's that beautiful mill. And the mill race. Wonderfully preserved. The last stop on our little excursion is the former depot at Fort Loudon. The tracks through here were removed south to Mercersburg Junction sometime in the late 1950s. For as long as I can remember, this building housed the community library, but recently a lack of volunteers and usage forced the village council to close it. The council currently leases it out as a private residence, and the tenant kindly invited me inside so I can show you a few details. Right there. This would have been the agent's office, and on the other side was the waiting room.
Oh, they left me some of these cool chairs. I think that they probably sat here waiting, you know.
This is the track side, obviously. That you can see the grade. There's the drainage on that side and going across.
And from what I hear, there was one track on this side and two on this side.
That's it for this time. I hope you enjoyed this video, and we'll take time to view some of our other ones.